Hey, okay, this is part two of my recording session from earlier this morning, meaning very, very late last night. Um, like I said, I have three more videos to do before the year is done, meaning top five of 2015 with honorable mentions, a Hateful Eight review, and for lack of a better term, a Christmas haul. Um, which I'm saying for lack of a better term because I really don't like saying Christmas haul. Um, let's just get down to the nitty gritty. I'm going to start with our honorable mentions. Number one of my honorable mentions would be Inside Out. As far as Pixar movie goes, they released two this year, one being The Good Dinosaur, the other one being Inside Out. I prefer Inside Out, mostly because I have not seen The Good Dinosaur. Um, but this movie is a very important movie for this year, mostly because it's realistic in the sense that it deals with things like depression and the necessity of sadness and things that are realistic. Like, this is how a child thinks. This is how a child would be in this stage of life. Now, I've talked about this in my Inside Out review, and it's being used for psychological tests on children who are dealing with depression and how to uh, better understand their own emotions. And for that, I think they did a really good job. My next honorable mention would be Ant-Man, because it, as far as Marvel movies that came out this year, meaning the other one being Age of Ultron, this one was more enjoyable for me because Age of Ultron and all the Marvel movies that have been coming out have been very end of the world, dire, urgent need superhero movies. This one was smaller scale, both figuratively and literally, than all the movies that have been coming out from Marvel. And I think it tied in very well. Like, yes, Scott Lang is going to be an Avenger from now on. Yes, Scott Lang is going to be in Civil War next year. And I think it was very good. There was still the Marvel wit you've come to expect. There was still the Marvel-esque essence about it, but just on a smaller, more tight packed seal around it. And for that, I think they did a really good job on it. My third honorable mention is Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. Now, when I did this, which I tried to do a review of it, I tried to do a summer wrap-up, it turned out to have no audio, so I'm going to end up just talking to you about it to you here. I loved this movie. The Frieza saga in Dragon Ball Z was one of my favorite story arcs in the anime. To have them resurrect Frieza and give him a new final form, it gave me goosebumps. It gave my friends goosebumps who went and saw it in theaters. It was a really good time. And it showed that Goku matured in this movie. He's still that, happy-go-lucky guy. He still wants to get stronger. He's still optimistic as all hell. But he had to make a choice in the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but he had to make a choice, and he matured for that choice. And, well, because, okay, that takes care of my honorable mentions. Now on to the list. Number 5, Creed. This being the 7th film in the Rocky franchise. I enjoyed it immensely. Michael B. Jordan plays the son of Apollo Creed. And he turns out to not know this for a long time. He gets adopted by his father's, I think, second wife. And becomes very successful. But on the side, he travels down to Mexico every now and again for underground dogfights. So he quits his job, he becomes cocky, and so he goes down to Philadelphia, and he meets an old-aged Rocky Balboa. Now that's all I'm going to say about the story, because there are things in this movie that are very, very not I didn't expect it. My number 4, I have to check my phone for number 4 because I already forgot it. Okay, there it is. My number 4 is Sicario. Now, I went and saw this with my aunt. Guys, don't see this with family. This is not a family movie. This is a very gritty, realistic, intense movie. It is about an FBI agent that goes with, a military to take down a cartel people, and it is very, very intense. It was probably one of the most graphic things that I've seen this year as far as movies go, and I went and saw Hateful Eight, and that was some crazy shit. But this movie was graphic in a completely different way. This one made me uncomfortable in a sense that I was sitting next to my aunt. Don't go see this with family. I will reiterate, don't go see this with family. See this by yourself or see this with friends who are just as, don't really care since they know it's a movie as you. My number 3, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Yes, I know, Star Wars, you expect it to be my number 1. It is not. Because I admit, there were movies that were better than this one, that came out this year. It's still a great movie, as you see if you've seen my review of it. I loved it. But there were movies that were better than it. My number 2, The Hateful Eight. Quentin Tarantino still got it, man. This one is a very whodunit type movie near the end, but the shit hits the fan, big time. Near the beginning of it, it was you got the sense like, oh, maybe Quentin Tarantino is chilled out. He's not being as bloody. Around the middle, nope. He went full throttle. And it was glorious. Go see this movie before it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray. But, like I said with Sicario, don't go see it with family. See it with friends, or see it if you're a son, go see it with your dad. 'Cause, there's that. My number 1, Mad Max Fury Road. This is my number 1 for 3 simple reasons. 1, George Miller is a great director. Second reason, I am a big fan of the Mad Max franchise. I'm not going to say I'm a fanboy. I'm not saying I fanboyed over it. But it did everything it needed to do correctly. There wasn't any unnecessary scenes. There weren't any unnecessary lines of dialogue. It was just... everything was in the movie that needed to be in the movie. The third reason, almost all of it were practical effects. All of the cars were real, all of the stunts were real, and it made you leave the theater going, how the hell did they do that? Which you don't see very much in movies nowadays since the creation of computer-generated images. And that is pretty much the reason why this is my number 1 movie of the year. I'm going to go with one more honorable mention since I just thought of it. If you're a fan of Brad Bird like I am, you probably are a fan of The Iron Giant. Now, Brad Bird this year decided to re-release the film in theaters, an extended cut. I went to go see it because The Iron Giant is my favorite movie of all time. It was glorious. I'm not going to tell you what he added. I'm not going to tell you anything about it except for the main story. The main story is, it takes place in the Cold War in Rockwell, Maine. A small boy by the name of Hogarth Hughes lives with his mother. His father is not in the picture. Presumably died in war because this takes place around the Cold War, and he was a pilot. And so he stumbles across a giant metal robot one day and befriends him. And the whole movie is a story of this very unlikely friendship between the giant and Hogarth. And the military gets involved with this really, really annoying character, agent. And it's a great movie to show your kids because it deals with the fact that, you know, guns don't kill people, people kill people. You are who you choose to be, because that line of dialogue in the movie, it summarizes it perfectly. You are who you choose to be. You do not have to do bad in your life. You have the choice of being good. And that was the choice of the giant near the end. I'm not going to spoil anything about that. And there was one scene in particular that I remember. It was with the giant and Hogarth in a junkyard, because that's where they were hiding the giant. And Hogarth is talking to the giant and saying, if you're alive, you have a soul. And even if you die, your soul doesn't die. And I think that's a totally unbiased way to talk about death. Which is why I recommend you showing this to your children. Because it's not religious in any way. It's not biased based on any other type of influence, like religion or like philosophy. It's just a small boy talking to a metal man about death. And it's almost pure in that sense. So I definitely recommend that you showing that to your children. If you haven't seen it as an adult, watch it. It is definitely recommended. I have 2 more videos to do, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.